Hello, Auntie, and I'm very, very excited that you are here with Samvaadah on our conversations about Draupadi, your upcoming dance production, which is going to happen on November 16th and 17th. Before we dwell and start about Draupadi, I would love to learn about little history on how you started your dance journey. Like, how did it all begin?
Okay. We were in Bombay, and I was in the second standard, I think, because I was 7 years old, and I participated in some dance in school, and my father happened to see it, and it was my father. I think my mother, if given my mother's ideas of dance and music, and which is easier, which is more expensive and all that, she would never have wanted me to do dance. But my father was decided when he saw me dancing that I was going to be the best dancer in the whole world, and so he came home and had a dance teacher, Kunjita Padan sir. He came to my house 3 days a week and started teaching me dance. That was when I was 7, and then by 11 I was doing solo performances.
Wow. So did you have something like a formal arangetram?
The arangetram, I would say, it didn't really have an arangetram solo at that time. I just did it in Bombay Tamil Sangam. I did a full solo first, and and soon after that, maybe because I was giving programs already, it didn't make sense to say I'm going to the stage for the first time. Because an arangetram means you're doing it for the first time. But I already started doing a lot before. Because of my father's friends and connections, I was already doing solo shows, like in the government of Maharashtra, Sachidanaya, wherever that was, they used to have dignitaries coming, and I would be doing a 2-hour solo right there itself.
Wow.
So because of that, I think by the time we moved to Delhi, I was in the 8th grade at that time. I had not done my arangetram, but it was like I'd done solo shows all the time. So it was... I didn't, nobody felt that I should do another arangetram. So I never did a formal arangetram like people do nowadays.
Right.
I actually fell in love with Yamini Krishnamurthy because she was the best dancer in Delhi at the time. She was dancing almost every day, and she was, she had a stunning personality on stage, and one of the teachers that I had, he would go and do Natuvangam for her. And so some of the tilanas that I do, even now, the Chandrakos tilana that our students do, was taken, my teacher had taught it to Yamini Krishnamurthy. So it was like, and I got to see her dance a lot. So she was, I guess the prime, motivator for me to continue the dance.
Amazing. So when you went to Delhi, what was it like? And at what point of time did you start learning other dance forms? Because I've heard you mention that you also started learning Kuchipudi, and then you went into a little bit of Odissi. So how did it all come about, learning 3 different art forms?
So when I was in Bombay itself, there was this C.R. Acharya from Darpana Academy in Ahmedabad. He came and did a workshop. And until then, I was only a solo, like students learning under my teacher. And, there'll be solo performances. There was no connection to any other dancer, in my group, other than Vijay Dashmi. We'd just go and dance together and come back. So this workshop had people from all over, all these dancers, coming and learning several pieces from C.R. Acharya sir. And it was Kuchipudi. And my father was always ready to take any opportunity, right? So, I went into that, and, that's where I actually met Menaka Thakkar, who is in Toronto. She had a big school, which is no more now. But the camaraderie that you have in a group setting, there were guy dancers, there were, other dancers from other schools. And that was really motivating. That made me really feel, and especially when the dance teacher singles you out because they like what you did, then it kind of encourages you and motivates you more. Sure. So I think that was the beginning, I think, of me feeling, I want to dance, I want to be on stage. Until then, I was just doing it, studying, learning, going on stage. It didn't seem it just came naturally, but it wasn't really like I understood what I was doing. But the teacher in Darpana, he made us write everything. That was the first time I started writing the lyrics of Krishna Sabdam, the lyrics of the Ashtapadi that we were doing, the lyrics of Balagopala Tarangam, whatever we learned, we wrote it down, and that was understanding what you're doing really makes a difference when you enjoy then what you're doing. And I was at the right age, I was 13 at that time, so it was a time that you can absorb things. And I think that was the time when I really felt, this is something I could possibly, enjoy doing, not just do it just because my father or mother
wanted you to. Like, would you go to Chennai to perform as well, even while you were in Bombay?
Actually, no. I don't think I ever went to Chennai and performed ever during that time. And even when I was in Delhi, and when we moved to Delhi, and my teacher, I was performing there again. Connections, and we had. I think they had connections with different South India Sabas in South India, the South Indian club, I think it was known as, and some others. So I got opportunities to perform, and the teachers, we never thought of traveling anywhere. But again, in 1969, my sister, who's sitting right now, she actually sang for me. She was sang the latter half. She sang some padams for me, and we got a chance to perform in Bhopal, Kota. There was a little tour that my dad, his father was able to arrange for me. So we went with the teacher, and he would sing the Varnam and all that, and then she was singing Me Urai Pai Anumani and other pieces in the second half. And we did a 3-city tour in 1969, which is very amazing. This is very, one of a kind. I don't think I would have done it any other time. Then in 71, I went to Chennai. I had a 6-month break from school, and I went to Chennai, and I was another friend of my father's recommended Srimati Indira Rajan. So I went to her, and I was taking daily classes from her for a whole 6 months. I would take the bus and go to her house and learn things. So I learned an entire marga. And again, at the end, she was teaching in Krishna Sabha in the little hall next to the stage. And so that Yagiraman sir, who was there, he gave me an opportunity to perform in May. So at the end of that 6 months, I was able to give a show performance of whatever I'd learned with teacher, which was, the first repertoire of Mate, Malayathaja, and Tilana, Geetal Dalipu, or not Dhanasri, it was I think Paras Tilana that I had done. So all that I had got an opportunity to perform. So that was my first performance in Chennai. And then when I came back, obviously she's in Chennai, I'm here in Delhi, and my other teacher was there. Okay, you've gone to Chennai, but as he didn't mind doing Natwangam and doing other pieces with me, because he knew that I was not going to go back to Chennai very soon. Okay. So he just I just continued with him in college. And in college, when I was there, right where I was, there was a teacher. I was kind of subbing for one of my dance teachers, and when I was subbing, I used to pass by this Odissi teacher's class. And because I was subbing, I was allowed to take 3 classes with this Odissi teacher, Guru Smt. And so it was, and my college was just next door to this place that Triveni Kala Sangam and Sangeet Bharati was just next door to my Navy Urban College. So after finishing college, I'd come there, do this 1-hour class for some adibus, for somebody had asked me to, the teacher asked me to, and then I'd see the Odissi, and then he started teaching me Odissi. So that's how I got interested in Odissi, because I kept seeing him, and he said, why don't you come? And then the director said, okay, go ahead and take the an hour class when you're here, if he's free to teach you.
So organic, right? Like I think those days, the organic way of learning art, it's something that I think we all probably have missed that opportunity of organically learning. Right now, it is more of what can go to the college apps, or what looks good on a profile and things like that. But I think that, would you say that sort of built your interest in using dance more as a language rather than conforming it to certain styles of dance, because the fact that you were able to explore so many styles of dance at a very young age?
I think it was, I don't think I thought about it like the way
As
you're
much.
asking me, but I just enjoyed dancing and I enjoyed the Odyssey part of it. And, learning it, I was learning different things, right? In Odyssey, you were doing a lot of Ashtapadis and Dashavataram and all that. And in dance, you're learning Varnam and, Padam and Italana. So it was a totally different repertoire.
Yeah.
And so that itself was interesting. It was interesting because it was a different repertoire and it, involved different movements. And I think also because I was getting it.
Yeah.
If I didn't get it, the teacher wouldn't have encouraged me and I also would have felt really discouraged. But because I was getting it, it was an easy process for me.
Right.
It's not like learning music. If somebody asked me, why didn't you continue music? Because every time I was learning all the varnams possible, I learned everything. I learned lots of kirtanas. But every time I sang, I knew that I had a lot more work to do before I could even sing. So that somebody could appreciate what I'm doing. Whereas in dance, it wasn't like that. So it was easy. Because it's an easy process, it was you were happy about it.
Happy.
I had pleasure doing it.
Right.
And at the end of this Odyssey thing also was, again, I got opportunities. There was Srimati Indira Nerayaman, who also was learning from the same teacher, Guru Smt. And she saw me dancing. He came to his class once and saw me dancing and said, okay, why don't you do a lecture demonstration and dance?
Wow.
In 1974, lecture demonstration. So I sat with my Guruji. I had not known what a lecture demonstration was. So I sat with him and he explained whatever he was doing. I had written, again, writing notes down was something that came only then.
Yeah.
I was never writing any notes for my dance. Otherwise, no lyrics or anything. Only my mother, I'd ask my mother, what is the lyric for this? Krishnani Begani Baro, what is it?
Right.
Because they never bothered to give it to me. The teachers never bothered to give it to me, right?
Yeah.
So, but then the Odyssey teacher was giving me the notes and all that. And the Kuchipudi teacher, as I told you, gave me notes.
Yeah.
So, when I gave the demonstration, I was explaining it. And soon after that, we moved to Hyderabad. Now, Hyderabad, when we moved there, it's a smaller place. My father had even more influence there in terms of connections. So when I started, he was very insisting that I would do Bharatanatyam, Kuchipudi and Odyssey all together. Because once I went to Hyderabad, there was a Guru Vedantam Jagannatha Sharma, who's one of the Vedantam Lakshminarayan Shastri, is known as a father of Kuchipudi.
Oh, right.
So that was his father.
Okay.
So he was very quite well known there. So he had me learn. I started, from fresh.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten what I'd learned in Bombay. Right? So, but I started afresh with him, and I did a show at the end of learning that I got an Andhra Pradesh Sangeet Narada Academy fellowship or something to do that. So I did a show, and then after that it was like Bharatanatyam, Kuchipudi, Odyssey all together in one show.
Wow.
So, and explaining it at the same time.
Yeah.
So that was, I think, very interesting for people to watch. First of all, they started understanding what I was doing, and the fact that I was doing 3 different styles. They were exposed to all 3 different styles.
Yeah.
They liked it. And of course, doing Kuchipudi in Hyderabad, Andhra Pradesh, is really important because you're respecting that culture, right?
Yeah.
You're not just saying, okay, I'll do Bharatanatyam, I'm doing Telugu pieces in Bharatanatyam. That was not enough. Doing Kuchipudi itself, respecting their art and doing what they wanted to see as well as doing other things was interesting. And so it actually, I would say I made a name for myself in Hyderabad only. And then because it was closer to Chennai, I would get my teacher and Srinivasan, Bandanur Srinivas was the Buddhist. They both come, and for all major shows, we were doing it with my teacher and Srinivasan. And minor shows, which was like 45 minutes for this government show or that and all that, I had a local Madhuvana and a local artist. So I had to, of course, the main person who was there for me to sing was Prema Ramamurthy, who was a very famous singer. And after that, after she started singing for me and for others in Hyderabad, she started singing for Malavika Sharike and other Bengali. She became very, 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 very famous.
Yeah.
But she's, it was really nice because she was able to give me new pieces. Like if I picked up a new piece, she would be able to set the music for it.
Yeah.
And so I started very early on composing and choreographing different things with her help, because my teacher was not there.
Right.
Teacher was in Chennai. So when she came, we do the Varnam and the Tilana and the beginning piece. But all the padams in between, I had already, would have done something with with Prema, giving me the music. And my mother was part of a music group called Sunadamala.
Okay.
So she had this 9 people. 3 or 4 of them were very good musicians, and they were very good resource people to me. So believe it or not, I got Chinnanjali Kiliye, I got Nadamadum Tirindadu from my mom's friends. I got several pieces from my mom's friends. I would just go there and I was so wanting to learn new things. I'd take my cassette recorder, have them record it, and then come back. She'll give me the meanings and the words, and then I would choreograph it. So it was, it became a very interesting process. At the same time, I was doing my master's in nutrition.
I was just going to ask you that. How did you manage all of this? Because and especially, I recall that you mentioned that all your siblings are, they are in the doctorate, like most of them are doctors and things like that. And the pressure for you to become a doctor was probably also there?
So I finished my BSc Honours in Nutrition. I went to Hyderabad and I got admission to my master's program in Foods and Nutrition. But they had a delay. Universities, sometimes there is a delay of 6 months. So that 6 months I was focusing on dance. So then when I finished it, I did join a PhD program in nutrition.
Oh.
And then again, the PhD program was under University of Hyderabad, which was just starting out. And they had a campus like 45 minutes away from the city.
Okay.
So you'd have to go there. And then, so all I did for the first 6 months of being in that, or 3 months or 6 months or whatever, I was just collecting abstracts and going to the library, and it was nutrition and brain development. So I was doing all that. At the end of that 6 months, when this thing was not going anywhere, the PhD program was not,
getting started.
moving anywhere, I fought with my dad and I said, listen, you wanted me to do this PhD program, it's not going anywhere. And then in the meantime, I got a Rotary Fellowship to come to the US.
Okay.
So I said, I'm already on a different path. I have to go and do my master's in nutrition at got an admission to UC Davis.
Oh.
I'm coming here. What is the point of this PhD program? But he was insistent I keep doing it. So I had to really put my foot down and say, I'm stopping it right now. In fact, I had some really good fans of mine, I would say, who were in RR Labs. They were 2 biochemistry PhD people, like scientists.
Yeah.
And they keep coming to my shows, Bharatanatyam and Odissi, and said, isn't it enough? You've done your masters. Enough, just stop. And I couldn't take that plunge.
Yeah.
Because as you said, my family, everybody, and my mom, my dad would always say, you have to have a career. It's not that you're going to get married and be a housewife. Everybody in our house, you have to have a career. So my younger sister was a doctor. My older brothers, of course, my older sister got married earlier.
Yeah.
And then she went into journalism school and all that. So I think that pressure was always there.
That you had to achieve more in academics.
Right. That pressure was always there. Yeah. So I would say that nowadays I feel that people who come from India are very single-minded.
Yeah.
They know that they have to do dance. They don't think of anything else. They do not think of anything else. They say, okay, this is what I'm going to do.
True.
I'm going to focus all my energies on learning dance and in doing dance and going into it full time.
Yeah.
But I never had that.
Yeah.
I just kind of fell into it because of schools was not starting, and therefore I did more dancing. And then things like that. And then when
but you still balanced it so well in terms of making sure that you were being a very skilled and very sought after dancer in all 3 dance forms plus your academics. You came here for your masters in nutrition in UC Davis, and you completed your masters here as well.
Yeah, I did my masters here, and it was a year program, completely paid for, including airfare and everything. So it was really a nice
scholarship because it's a scholarship.
Yeah. And also Rotary was such that you came. They didn't pick you just for academics. They picked you as also to be a cultural ambassador. Oh. So it was nice because then at the end, I mean, I also met Kumar at that time, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I would, I mean, I was exposed to the Bay Area community, music community at that time.
Yeah.
Catherine Kunilana was there at that time, and she was bringing dancers to, so I'd come from Davis and, you know, go to see those shows. So it was a nice time. And then the Republic Day parade and everything kept going on the same.
Yeah. Which year did you come here?
79, I got 78 I came, 79 I got married. And then 80 is when, you know, I decided, okay, I'm done with my nutrition.
Yeah.
I don't have finished my thesis, and I made the decision not to go back and do any PhD on it.
Okay.
Just,
What was your thesis on, Auntie?
it was on protein efficiency ratio of different legumes, which is, you know, and you know, combination of rice and legumes or wheat and legumes. You know, each time we combine these things together, they get a better, it becomes a better protein.
Wow.
So that's how that was my thesis. I'm glad I remember.
I know that. I was just going to say that you remember it. That's amazing. And let's talk about now that you came back to Bay Area, and at what point did you choose to start focusing and start Abhinaya Dance Company? Is that when it started, or
so
how did it
yeah,
start?
in 1980, several of Kumar's music friends, you know, who had children, they said, "Why don't you start a school?" So I started teaching in somebody's garage. Initially, I had about 6 students. I think Radhika Kannan was one of the first in that batch. She was 5 years old or something at that time. She and a few others came. We started, and then in I think it was the following year when we had a Vijayadashmi, a friend of mine, Meerachari, she suggested, "Why don't you name the school something?" And then she suggested Abhinaya. So
that's nice.
Abhinaya School of Dance it became at that point. And then
I was
there
always
another
wondering
teacher.
whether it was based on Abhinaya Darpanam or just expressions, but now it.
My friend's idea, not my idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, so after that, you know, there was a teacher who was teaching here, and she moved to India. So some of her students came to me, 3 or 4 of her students came to me, and one of them had already learned quite a bit. So although I started teaching in 1980, she had already learned. So when she came in 1981, she, you know, in 1983, she was 13, 14 years old, and she wanted to do her Aravatram. And she had learned. So that was our
your
first
first Aravatram. Do you know the name of the person?
Gayatri Jayarasasana. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Her mother was very big in Chinmaya Mission. So we had Swami Chinmayananda come to inaugurate it. And the reason we are starting with very punctual is because he set it up that way. He came exactly, 4 o'clock was the show, he'd be there at 4 o'clock. And he'd insist that the program starts exactly at one time. So he kind of instilled that in us.
Being on time.
Yeah, be exactly, very, very punctual.
Yeah.
Not in no Indian Standard Time. So we kept that going,
Absolutely,
you know, throughout. Because, and I think that's because of him. He was very particular that nobody should be late. You should just start, whether people are here or not. You should start. So our first engagements were always, we never waited for anybody. We started on the dot.
Amazing.
And
so, did you, when you were doing your first engagement, Auntie, did you have any jitters, and did Indra Mami come to?
No, she was not there at that time
you?
because she was in India, and you know, India connections were much
Very
less at that time. Phone, you know, you would just call like once in a blue moon, right?
Yeah.
And I remember, and going to India was very difficult.
And also
We never did
expensive.
it. And expensive at that time.
So you never used to go and like perform in the season under
No, not at that time. 1980, we had bought our first house as well. So,
tight. Everything was tight.
see, we never had orchestra come from India, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the other people in this area at that time, a lot of dance teachers would get musicians from India. But we had Kumar being part of the music circle.
Yeah.
We knew Bani, Sriratnam, Jaya Krishnan. They signed for the first engagement. And we had Sanjay Iyer, who used to play the flute. He still plays the flute. He played the mridangam at that time. He was a young boy of 13 years old at that time, and he was roped into playing the violin.
Now that you are like 45 years of Abhinaya Dance School, like, do you see what is the transformation of Arangetrams that you have seen over these 4 decades? Like, how can you talk a little bit about it? Like, from the first time that you were probably doing it to now, what has changed, or like, what has remained authentic to being an Arangetram that you started initially? What has changed and what has remained?
Well, the idea was the girl had to, be ready. And of course, she was like 13, 14 years at 13 and a half, and she was able to get all that expression and do her steps and remember everything and all that. So that she passed that test very easily. When we did the Arangetram, there was not that many caterers and all that around, right? So we only thought of in the
venue,
and then in of course the musicians, and then in the intermission we would give something as a like a little snack to people. So we'd make all those snacks. We'd make, like, people would make 600 burfis or 400 burfis at home, or murukus at home, and then pack it. We'd have a session where we would pack it and keep 400 bags at the intermission time. So when they were leaving after intermission, there was no question of no dinner or anything at that time.
Yeah. Moving on from the first Arangetram, Auntie, can you talk to us about your first production that you envisioned and you started in the Bay Area?
Okay. Our first production was Shiva the Cosmic Dancer. So, as I said, the first Arangetram was 1983, and 1985, 4 and 85, I had some more students doing their Arangetram. So there were about 6 people, I think, who had done their Arangetrams, 2 sisters and then a couple of others. So 6, I think 6. So then in 1986, I realized, there were people who wanted to get these students part of, different productions of their own.
Oh.
So I was thinking, if they're going out and doing productions, I should probably do something about our own as well, right? Because they're not getting an opportunity after their Arangetams to perform, which is one of the reasons why we started productions, is because just to give them an opportunity to do things.
Yeah.
So, 1986, we decided to do Shiva the Cosmic Dancer. And around that time itself, I think around that time is this ethnic dance festival. They were doing auditions and all that. I think the first auditions were in earlier than that, and Catherine Puniraman had been part of it. Yeah. One of the first companies that they did it. So in 85 or 86, these girls auditioned, the ones who were part of Amrita Arangetams, and we got in. Into the festival, which was like a big thrill for everybody. Yeah. And so in June of that year, we were slated to go. Before that, this production happened. This Shiva the Cosmic Dancer happened. And then we started it, and when we had all these meetings and all that, the parent community, they all came. I had only 25 students at that time, but they all came. They all were very interested. There were all these friends of Kumar's, who were interested in making props for us. So they made all these lovely props. We used gobos for the first time, using the mountain gobo and the tree and stuff like that. So it was an interesting thing that happened in 1983, in 86, I mean. So, and it was spectacular for everybody to watch. The community was, it was in Kavali Theatre. It was packed, solid, sold out, and
was that a ticketed show as well?
It was a ticketed, yes. It was ticketed, and it was very high price, like $5 or $6 or something like that. So, I think the thing was that everybody left the thing saying, hey, our students, our dancers are getting a chance to perform, a nice production, and the musicians are also local. So we had this guy called Rusty Gillette. Rusty Gillette, his name was. He changed his name. He's an American guy from LA. He had learnt with Bala Saraswati's brother, Ranganathan, who taught Mridangam at Wesleyan University. So he learned from him. And so he did the Mridangam at that time. Okay. And from him only I learned how to write notes.
Oh.
He was not writing it the way I wrote, but he still had, notes
Right.
that he wrote down for the Mridangis.
Nice.
And so before that, I would write tai tai, things like that.
Correct.
But well, this guy had started writing it in notation, and that's what I was following.
And what was the when I saw the brochure that you had shared about Shiva, the cosmic dancer, it was such a detailed brochure that you had mentioned, and it is so even at that time you had brought in this whole concept of just not presenting pieces but like creating a theme around it, right?
Yeah.
How did you what made you do that, or how did you conceptualize that?
Well, I think it wasn't that I was the first one doing it. In India, Padma Subramanian had already done Krishnaya Tubhya Namaha.
Okay.
We had done Shedran Ramaya Tubhya Namaha. But I don't think many people have done Shiva. So I knew when we were talking about themes and somebody mentioned Shiva, I said, yeah, Shiva has not been done.
Right.
And I it could have been done later on in India, but at that time, 1986, it was new for us. And because a part of Shiva Murugan temple was all the Kavai monastery people. They were all part of it.
Yeah.
So they had lots of pamphlets.
Yeah.
And they had one pamphlet about the Philadelphia Museum of Art's exhibition on manifestations of Shiva.
Oh, okay.
So that was like a document that one could look at and then decide, okay, this is how one can plan. Just like they planned different halls, exhibits in different halls, like that it was easy to think, to visualize, each segment of these. So Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 could be focusing on one aspect of Shiva. Shiva the protector, Shiva the dancer, Shiva the Sundareshwara, the one who got married, right? The handsome lord, the bridegroom, and like that. So we wanted to. It gave me the idea of doing it in different acts of Shiva's specific qualities or specific attributes, and that's how that theme came about.
Can you talk a little bit about this T-shirt that we are seeing in this particular picture, and give us what is the story behind this?
So this T-shirt was something that Kalpana Chawla, who was our student, astronaut Kalpana Chawla, she was a student in the 90s, early 90s. She even participated in one show after she had done all her Adavas and all that. There was one show, My Favorite Story, that she also came in. And after that, she went into the astronaut pool in Houston and got trained and all that. And when she was selected to go to space, she said, I'm allowed to take 3 things that are very precious, have been precious to me through my career, my life. And I want to take something because Abhinaya was teaching in Bharatanatyam, because she grew up in a remote, Ludhiana, where she had no connection to Bharatanatyam at all. So having come to the Bay Area, she was introduced to it and she really loved it. So we sent her our T-shirt and she took it to space and authenticated it and sent it back. And so here we have this big photograph, and unfortunately she passed away
during her mission.
In the second mission, not the first mission, but the second.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so. Abhinaya Dance Company has traveled to space and come back. Amazing! That is fantastic, Auntie. Like such a proud moment for you, right? And the Abhinaya team as well. That's amazing. Okay, the second picture is this.
So, as I said, I made both Malavika and Rasika join other groups as they were growing up. And what was interesting for them is, like, from the 90s, when they were 5 years old of age and, little older, I started doing all these epic emotions, which was Mahabharatas and from the Mahabharata, Pandavas and Kauravas. And so Rasika was a very thrilling Kaurava, and then she, so all these, they were very excited when we did all these shows together. In one of the shows that we did on My Favorite Story, Rasika was in Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves. She was the chief thief, riding a horse and coming and all that. So it was very thrilling for them to be part of those productions. Yeah. So because they were part of it, they enjoyed growing up with it. Yeah. And ultimately, when they did their Arangetram, like Rasika did in 96, and Malavika did in 98. I don't think Rasika at that point really wanted to do it right then, but I felt she was ready, and so I, so both of them, when they did it, they, did really practice to the extent that these girls are doing, making them do now. Rasika would dance one bit one day, and then another bit another day, and another bit a third day, and a fourth, and then she was in performance. And then Malavika, she just decided on her own. She had seen so many dances. She just said, "I'm going to do this Varnam, blah 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 blah. I'm going to do this." And she went there and she learned by heart. She, remembered all the narration, and I didn't even teach her how to do narration or anything. She just went there and did the narration. There's nothing that I had to actually.
It all came. Apple didn't fall very far from the tree.
I mean, they just assimilated it.
They're seeing you every day, day in and day out, I guess. Yeah, and that is amazing. So now, like in order of like what you enjoy the most, what would it be? Teacher. Look, I'll give you 4 options: teaching, choreography, performing, and ideating.
I think idea. When you get the idea and it kind of progresses in a nice manner, then you really are. It's very exciting. It's a very exciting process. But putting it together, I guess if you're not performing yourself, then it's a different thing. So there is a difference between performing and choreographing for yourself versus performing and doing choreography for a group. So I think I'm better at choreography and performance for myself because if I put myself into a role, I know that I can do it well. But if I have to make other people do that, and then with patterns and all that, that's a
little bit more tricky.
It's a little you can do it, but you're not always sure that you're doing the best.
Got it.
For myself, I think I prefer doing my own performance, my own choreography for myself. And when I try to put that into somebody else, it doesn't really work sometimes, right?
Yeah.
You can't make somebody else do what you're doing,
what you're thinking in your head. Yeah. So what point of time did you focus on just only choosing Bharatanatyam as your mainstream and not do teaching Odissi or Kuchipudi? When did you take that decision?
In 1990, Jyoti Lakaraju performed Kuchipudi with me, and in 1991 I was teaching. Somebody wanted I was teaching them Kuchipudi one item here and there, but I was not developing it any further.
Right.
I never went back to Hyderabad because I didn't have a my parents left Hyderabad, so I didn't have any continuity of developing any more pieces in Kuchipudi. Whereas Bharatanatyam, I was developing more pieces, and more Varnams. I had all these Varnam books, and I could do it on my own.
Yeah.
But Kuchipudi, I needed to be under. I needed some guidance. And she was already she had a lot of training, and she started dancing, and so she started teaching Kuchipudi, and I said, fine, somebody else is there to take it up, right? So she was teaching Kuchipudi. Initially, she was teaching it under Abhinaya's umbrella also itself. And 2 or 3 Aranga Praveshams she did under Abhinaya's umbrella before she went out in 2000 and formed her own school. For 10 years, she was actually under Abhinaya, doing Kuchipudi and all that. Then, at the same time, Asaku Takami, in between in the 1980s, I came in touch with Guru Smt, who had come here on his workshops. So I've taken a couple of his workshops, and he's really like a master guru in a sense. Very, very motivating, and you'll be inspired by him when you see him, right? So his student Asako Takami, a Japanese dancer, came around that same time, 93, I think she was here, 92, 93. And she was a beautiful, graceful dancer. She's no more. She passed away early on, last 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, she died of cancer. But she was so beautiful. And then, so Rasika started, she was coming to our house in Cupertino. And she and some of my other dancers also learned Odissi with her. Nice. Rasika and somebody and a couple of others, they learned Odissi with her. So she was also, and we did a show, Asako did Odissi, even in our Natya Mahotsav that we did, Asako had a segment on Odissi, Jyoti had a segment on Kuchipudi, solo segment. And then I decided I can just focus on Bharatanatyam. There is no necessity.
So it was a conscious decision to just like focus
on Bharatanatyam. As long as it's being propagated with people who are focusing
on that.
And doing it more intensely than others.
You've been such a community collaborator. I have to say that, like, even today, you attend so many performances by everybody, like even whether it's young artists who are presenting or the older generation who are presenting. Motivate yourself to go and watch so many performances even now.
I think off late I'm going to more, I feel, because I'm not dancing as much.
Right.
But if I were dancing a lot and I had all my own commitments, I wouldn't go as much.
Right.
But off late, I mean,
you have the time a little bit.
Actually, both Kumar and I, we used to go for a lot of music kacheris. We always had to balance music and dance. So I'm going to dance. I'd like to go definitely to people who are presenting something unusual and different and all that. So I'd like to support them for sure.
True. Speaking of unusual productions, let's talk about Draupadi, which is coming up right now. And what is different and what is unusual about Draupadi? Because many people have done it, especially in the recent decade or so. A lot of productions have happened over Draupadi. How is Abhinaya's Draupadi different? Because I know most of Abhinaya's production have a very unique storytelling to it. Whether it is Caesar Chavez, whether it is Martin Luther King, Gandhi, or even Apsaras that we just recently did. Everything has a very different storytelling on it. How different is Draupadi? Because Draupadi's story, everybody knows about it. So what is different? And what was the inspiration to take Draupadi?
Okay. My brother, my older brother is an author.
Okay.
And he's written one book on the making of Bhishma, which is, this is when Bhishma on his deathbed, he's narrating to Yudhishthira. That's how it's again going back. And the next one that he did was on the matriarchs of Hastinapur. So my idea was to do matriarchs of Hastinapur, which included, starting with Satyavati, then Kunti and Gandhari, Kunti, and then Draupadi, and those were the people whom I wanted to focus on. But as I kept thinking about it, I still might do it at some future point. Focus on at least a few of them. We realized that it would just be too diluted to take all of them and do all their stories, and so it'd be better to just focus on one of them. And Draupadi is obviously the main heroine in the Mahabharata. So there's made no sense to focus on Gandhari or Satyavati, whose things their lives are all kind of half done in the Mahabharata. It's only Draupadi who finishes the whole thing, right? In terms of the war itself and her
her vengeance
and her story is complete. So you decide to focus on Draupadi, and also as my son-in-law points out, Draupadi is a victim, right? And we still see victims, women as victims all over the place, and it's never stopping. Nobody seems to want to bring that into focus, into realization to people, and especially the younger people who just see it as a story, but it's not a story that's just in the epics.
It happens in real life.
It's there in real life. So that was interesting.
So it is very interesting that you picked the unsung warrior as the tagline for it. What, according to you, are the unsung battles of Draupadi?
So I think that's what we bring out in this show, right? We're starting with the fact that everybody thinks that she is the one who's caused everything to happen to her, and going back to the original Mahabharata, there are so many things that we realize that it wasn't because she, like for instance, I'm talking about Karna, she was not saying anything about Karna, but later on, all the books and the other versions of the Mahabharata started saying, oh, Draupadi, ignored Karna, or insulted Karna by saying he was the son of a charioteer, and therefore he was rude to her. So there is this. It's this patriarchal tendency of in victimizing the woman, saying that she is bringing everything upon herself. Like for instance, even in Duryodhana, in the one scene that we show, where in the Maya palace, there is this. Even my son-in-law said, "Oh, that's exactly what she said. That you're the son. Duryodhana is the son of a blind king, and he's also blind." Andeka Putra Anda or something like that, right? So, and in the original Mahabharata, she didn't laugh. It was only Arjuna and Bhima who laughed. She was not even, she was not laughing.
Just party to it.
She was just sitting there,
next to them.
sitting there, but she was lame. Why? Because in the later versions, they made her say that. In the versions, they made her say that, so that ultimately they want to, normalize the stuff that the people had done to them, Kauravas had done to them, done to her. By saying that she was also, not really good. She was bad in a sense. So bringing all that out in a storyline was important.
Yeah.
And reading more, you find out about all that also.
Absolutely. There's so many nuances that you find out which are true and not true and things like that. That's amazing, Auntie. I mean, we're all looking forward to Draupadi as a production, and I know that you have created new music like this. What was the thought behind creating new music and using Sanskrit lyrics for it? Is there any particular ideation that you had behind that?
Well, the main Mahabharata, as Vyasas, is in Sanskrit, right?
Yeah.
So we had little snippets here and there that was relevant to the story that one can really pick out from the Mahabharata, the original Mahabharata. But when you want a storyline, then you really need somebody to put those thoughts out in a lyric format or in a dialogue format or whatever.
Yeah.
So the easiest way was to do it with, in Sanskrit.
Okay.
Tamil means I've done a mixture of the Sanskrit and Tamil in the past in our Arjuna.
Yeah.
But I felt we started with Sanskrit, let us stick to Sanskrit throughout.
Yeah.
If we do it in Tamil, we'll do it in Tamil throughout.
Yeah.
We just have it's just a more universal language. And you have both North Indians and South Indians under your tutelage in Bharatanatyam.
Right.
You don't want to just say, okay, we're only doing Tamil, right?
Yeah.
By itself, in our Bharatanatyam, we have our repertoire consists of Telugu, Kannada, Marathi, whatever. We can choose any language. But when it comes to a production, you don't want to be singling out only one language.
Right.
It's nicer to have a common language.
Common language. Right. Absolutely. And Auntie, thank you so much for talking to me. And I really hope that Draupadi, when we see it on 16th and 17th, we come up with the same feeling that we have seen every other Abhinaya dance performance as well. If you have to, tell something to the audience about Draupadi, please, this is your time.
I think you'd enjoy the fact that we have really fabulous music that Asha has put together and a great orchestra with Malavika also doing the Natuvanga. We are hoping that the music will carry through as well and get the story across.
Yeah.
What is, as I said, what's special about Draupadi is that message.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that message will get through to people.
Absolutely.
About the women being strong and not feeling victimized, but rising above
it and taking control of their own actions and their own lives, right? Yes. Thank you so much, Auntie. This has been a lovely chat. I know it's very long, but it's a very lovely chat. There are so many more questions I have, but I'm going to reserve it for the next time so that we can have more conversations with you. Thank you for being on Samvaadah, and I really enjoyed our time talking to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Aishwarya.